This program is Camtasia Studio. Camtasia. C-A-M. Yeah. It's going to be on the recording because I'm saying it. Okay, so let's look at CPG, crescent point energy. So analyzing this, we've had rising bottoms, and we had a triple top where it hit it once, twice, 3 times. It couldn't break through that $48 mark. So that tells me that the buyers were getting kind of tired. They tried to push it up, and they couldn't. The sellers kept stopping them there. And since then, we've had a falling top form, and that implies that this is probably going to go lower. So it hasn't broken support yet, but it looks like it might, and I'd be a little bit wary of that one. This was in a rectangle consolidation. It recently broke down, so it broke through support, and it looks like its party's over. It wasn't a nice uptrend here. Uptrend broken there, and then we went sideways for a few months, and now it's starting to roll over and head down. We're seeing kind of common themes. All of these stocks that are looking a little bit not great are energy and gold stocks. And yet gold is at a new high, and energy's oil has done quite well. So the market's almost predicting that gold and oil can't sustain the prices that they're at, and that the actual stocks aren't going to make as much money in the future. It's the only thing I can glean from it. Okay, this isn't an upward trend. We have resistance here, rising bottoms. It's stuck in a pattern, but the buyers are in control. So if I owned this and I was patient, I'd stick with it. But I wouldn't want to buy it just yet. All right, so everyone take a look at this and think about it for a second, and then I will give you my thoughts on it. So this is Encana. It is trying to build an upward trend, but there's a lot of volatility in that. Notice that we go up, we come down, we go up, we come down. Quite wide price swings, right? So the market doesn't have a lot of confidence in what's going on here. On Thursday, it broke its latest downward move, so good chance it tries to make another jump up here. But because of the uncertainty in the chart, I don't think that's an easy call to make. I would say that this is an average chart, neutral, not something I'd want to trade. When I'm going through charts, I'm looking for great chart patterns. It's very easy to find good chart patterns, things that might go up, things that look pretty good. But if you want to make money in the market, you're better to be patient for the great chart patterns. Everyone look at this chart and try to find the great days to buy this stock based on what we've talked about so far. So I'll give you a second to think about it, and I'll show you. So again, we're looking for the great days. So you think about this right there, nice breakout, right there, and then go back to here. It doesn't look like it so much now because the scale's been pulled apart so much, but this was a breakout right back there. And notice that our stock scores jump up on those days. So it jumps up like that, it jumps up there, volume is jumping, stock scores are jumping. So the indicators are there to do all of those things for us. Now, am I in a situation where I'm breaking from a good foundation right now? No, I'm trying to build a foundation, I'm trying to build a pennant. But this probably takes a while to do this, and then maybe one day it does this and continues higher. But for now, I think it's a hold, but not a buy.
Generally, you'll see a lot of pennant breaks in a particular stock that instead of changing patterns, like one would be a cup and handle, then you get a flag, then you get a pennant, then you get or do you usually see pennant?
So the question is, does a pennant or does a pattern seem to recur based on the stock? In other words, one stock might have a whole bunch of ascending triangles and one might have a whole bunch of pennants. I would say no. I think that you might get the same pattern over and over, but it's not dependent upon that stock. In other words, there's not really a personality to stocks that determine the patterns. Okay, look at this one. When was the big abnormal day that started the upward trend? Doesn't that stand out? That's an ascending triangle. Big volume, big stock score break. That started this move. Then we broke our upward trend line, and we went sideways for a while. And more recently, we've had the seller's in control. What's that pattern? Try again. Falling wedge. Remember I said the falling wedge is a bullish pattern that looks bearish? Because the tops are falling faster than the bottoms. So the bottoms are falling, and then they're falling less strong. And so you're getting a compression of volatility, and we just got a breakout from that on Thursday. So this probably goes back up to here. Now let's think in terms of risk reward. If we're going to go up to here, and we're buying here, and our stop is there, does that have double the upside for the downside? Yes. So it's just right on the edge of being a worthwhile trade to make. Is it perfect? No, because there's a lot of people that own that stock in this price range, and that could slow it down a little bit. So I'm a bit wary of it. I think it's more likely to go higher than lower, but it's not a sure thing by any means.
On the original breakout there back in August, there wasn't a lot of volume.
Again, the scale here is so thrown out because of how we're seeing this. If I took you back to that day, it probably did stand out as more abnormal than it looks. Okay, so when was the downward trend line broken? Well, just draw a line across here like this. Okay, downward trend line broken there. Now we're building a rising bottom. And we're trying to break through that. If we do break through it, it probably goes up into there. So this looks like a chart that's trying to make a turnaround. And you can see that the sentiment is 59. We want 60. So we're getting real close to that point where the sentiment stock score is showing optimism. Who's in control? This is a great stock for playing pullbacks because it's in a nice, orderly, linear upward trend. It runs away, it pulls back. It runs away, it pulls back. It runs away, it pulls back. Look how often it does that. Pretty predictable. Now, right now, way up here, we're a ways above the upward trend line. In fact, if we drew this as a channel, we'd be pushing the top of that channel. So to me, it's not a great time to buy it because it's kind of due for that pullback phase where it comes back and then bounces. But I'd consider it on a pullback. We'll talk about that strategy later. Next one. Uh-oh, what happened on Friday? Now, one thing we have to be aware of, this is a trust unit. Everyone see on the end of the symbol, there's a .un there? That means it's a trust. What do trusts do every quarter? They pay out their dividend, right? And so when they pay out their dividend, their stock should go down by the amount of the dividend. So you can't totally trust a down day on a trust, no pun intended, because of the fact that they're paying out. If a company is worth $10 million in cash, and they pay out $1 million, now they're only worth $9 million in cash. That's why their stock price drops down, because they're giving that money to their shareholders. I don't think that's what happened, but they may have announced that they're not going to pay as high of a dividend, and which is why the market punished it. So, long story short, this company is pulling back to its upward trend line, right? There's our upward trend line. We ran away from it. Well, now we're going to pull back to it. I'd probably leave it alone right now because I think it's going to go through a little period of trying to bounce off of that trend line. Okay, we'll go through a few more. Who's in control? Buyers are in control. How confident are they? Quite a bit of volatility, isn't there? So the fact that we have quite a bit of volatility here, where we're going up, we're going down, we're bouncing all over the place in the last few months, that tells me that investors like the company, but they're not too sure about what's going on. So there's some risk there. The pattern that's building right now is a very rough ascending triangle. It's got some time before it looks good because we need to see that volatility come down and then a break, and then it goes hopefully upwards from that. But if it breaks that pattern, then we leave it alone. Okay, who's in control? Buyers are in control. The sellers have been pushing it down for the last 3 weeks. But in the big picture, remember, always look at big picture first. The buyers are in control, but is there emotion in this stock? Look at how far above the upward trend line we got. So that tells me that we're due for a pullback, and that seems to be what's happening now. Okay, who's in control? Buyers, yep. Just take a quick look at the trend. We're up. Ran away from the trend line a little bit, pulling back to it. Probably bounces in the next few days because it has some pretty good support right here. See that? But again, a lot of volatility lately. Look back on this day right here. We had a nice pattern, ascending triangle, breakout. That was from a good low volatility, a good foundation. We don't have a foundation here, so it's hard to say I want to buy that stock. Recently made a breakout. Looks likely to go higher. It's already almost up a risk reward of 1. So buying it now is a bit late. You're 1 risk reward late, right? But if you owned it, I'd hang on to it. It looks good. Who's in control? Buyers, yeah. We could draw a trend line like this. It's getting a bit steeper. Maybe due for a little bit of a pullback, but it's a solid looking stock if you own it. Notice I say very few times this is a stock I want to buy. If you think about a stock's history, let's look at this stock for example. I know some of you are familiar with it. There was one day on this chart that I would buy it. One real strong buy day. And even that one wasn't that great, but there you had an ascending triangle break. Stock scores jumped up, volume jumped up. That was a pretty good day. Since then, we've been grinding lower. It's a lot of volatility. It's kind of a hard stock to predict. Okay, what do we think of this one? First question, who's in control? Buyers. Second question, is it starting a trend? Is it building a base, foundation? Yeah, it is. Now, this base that it's building right now is a few steps up from where it started. We got a base there. We had another one there. We had another one right down here. So it breaks from that base. Well, we expect it to get stuck here. And that's pretty much what happened. Finally, we broke out there. And then we broke out again here. To me, the best buy day on this whole chart, what do you think it was? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? The best buy day in my mind was number 3. And the reason why is it had the most sound foundation at that time. Here the foundation was drifting lower. Drifting lower means pessimism. Cup and handle pattern, pretty good. That breakout, not that far above resistance, so not ideal. Here the foundation is drifting upward, so we have optimism. So that's why I like that day the most. And ultimately that was the day that had the best run.
So number 2, the cup and handles kind of fall apart.
Well, yeah, the number 2, the handle is drifting lower, so there's pessimism into the handle. What does that mean? People will sell into the abnormal action upside. And that's exactly what happened. We had a big up day here, but there was pessimism going into it, so people sell into the strength, and it takes a while for it to get going.
So it retraced more than 50%?
It almost did, yeah. Pretty close, I would say more than 50. Okay, next one. What do we think? Buyers are in control long term. So the long term trend is pretty decent. We ran away, we pulled back, we've just ran away, and now we're working on the pullback phase. To me, it's a stock that's going to see lower prices, most likely. Okay, who's in control? I would say the dominant mood right now is sellers because we had buyers in control here, but that was broken. And more recently, we've just been in this slow grind lower. And until that downward trend is broken, it's a stock that I would avoid. Okay, what do you think of this? To me, it's a slightly optimistic chart. I mean, that's not bad. But we've also got falling tops. The line of best fit for this is probably sideways. It's a dead market. This is the gold ETF. How the heck can this be possible? Well, this ETF is made up of gold stocks, not gold itself. So the gold companies are not performing very well, generally. Some are, some aren't. And I would speculate that that is because the gold companies themselves didn't think that gold would go to $1,500 an ounce. And they were selling their production forward at $700, $800 an ounce, who knows what. Some didn't hedge and they're enjoying the upside. Others hedged and they're stuck with selling gold at $800 an ounce in the futures market. I'm just speculating. I don't know if that's the case. It doesn't really matter what the case is. Just something to think about. Okay, this is a natural gas ETF. This is a bear ETF. So it goes up when the market goes down. It goes down when the market goes up. So generally speaking, this ETF is negative because it's building a descending triangle. But remember, it's a bear ETF. So that means if this looks bad, that means natural gas actually looks okay. We'll see the up one in a second. Should be next, actually. There's the up one. So now you can see here's the natural gas ETF that goes up when natural gas goes up. And we're starting to get rising bottoms building. We're recently breaking out of a pennant. Is that a good trade to take? Think about risk reward. We got resistance right here, right? If we buy here and we put our stop down there, our risk reward is maybe 1-to-1 before it's going to get stuck. I would rather wait, watch it get stuck at 8, go sideways for a while, and then break, because then it's maybe it can go up into this range. So when you look at charts, don't just look at the pattern, but also look at it in terms of risk reward. That's important as well. Okay, Husky. So, is it buyers in control or sellers? I would say buyers. Is it predictable or unpredictable? Why is it unpredictable? Too volatile. It's too tough to call. This is one I just leave out because I don't think it's easy to predict it. Too much volatility. Who's in control, buyers or sellers? Buyers in the longer term, sellers in the short term. But again, not a great looking chart. I'd probably leave this one alone. We're looking for great charts, and if you do this every day, you might find one a day if you're lucky. I expect to find 50 good position trades a year. 50. So that's one every 4 days, because there's about 200 trading days in a year. But if you can find 50 a year that earn you an average of 2 reward for risk, and you're right 70% of the time, and you risk $1,000 on each trade, how much money do you make at the end of the year? Well, 50, and you're right 70% of the time. So you're right 35, so that's $35,000 in profit, and you lose $15,000, so you make $20,000 based on that. Now, it depends on how much capital is required to do that, because you're going to hold some at multiple times, or multiple stocks at one time, right? But that's kind of the math that you want to think about. Now, with position trading, if you're really patient with the good ones, you can average 4-to-1. That dramatically improves your performance. Okay, this stock, Inmet Mining. What's the pattern building? I'll draw it for you in a second. Connect the dots. It's a pennant pattern. Trend into the pennant is up, so we expect the trend out of the pennant to be up. But until we break to the upside, nothing's important there. Right now it's a bit of a parking lot, because our general trend is sideways over the last few months. Let's do 5 more. What do you think of this one? Who's in control? What is the market doing right now? Consolidating. Excellent. So it's in a sideways trading range. It's building a base for the future. Do I want to buy it today? I want to wait for that breakout. So for now, it's a stock. If you own it, it's okay to hold it because it's an okay pattern. It's an upside move into a consolidation. We expect it to go up again. But if it breaks this pattern downside, then I'd sell it. If I find something better, I'd sell it. Or I'd just wait for the breakout and then buy it then. Who's in control, buyers or sellers? I would say it's more of a neutral chart. We had buyers in control here, but more recently, this is a kind of a rectangle consolidation. We're at the bottom edge of that, so it should bounce, come back into here, and maybe eventually it breaks out. But for now, it could also break down, in which case I'd be a seller. Kinross. What do you think of that one? Sell it if you own it. Stay away from it if you don't. Falling tops towards support. That's a descending triangle. It probably will break down and head lower. What do you think of this? This is called 4 days too late. There was our breakout. I can't tell you how close I came to featuring this stock in my newsletter. I heat and hawed about it. I wish I had. The reason I didn't is I felt it was a bit volatile in here, and the breakout wasn't that strong. Volume was kind of borderline on a whole bunch of things. I should have, though. The market was saying it wanted to go higher, and then on Friday it made that big jump.
Do you think it's late in the phase?
Do I think it's late? No, it's early in the trend, but it'll probably pull back before it goes higher.
Sorry, not late, but it's had a pretty good run.
Well, it had a good run here, but it's been going sideways for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. It's got a pretty good foundation built. The thing is, it had a big jump on Friday, so I think it'll probably pull back before it goes higher, but you never know. Maybe there's something going to happen and it'll make an even bigger jump the next day. To me, right now, it's a stock to swing trade or day trade. Okay, so let's pause that there. I'm just going to